Peace, family. This is Tariq. Welcome back again for another day, another episode of Knowledge Corner. All right, today's insight. God is my inspiration. God is my inspiration. I actually got this from the song You're My Latest, My Greatest Inspiration by Teddy Pendergrass. This was off his It's Time for Love album that was released September 2nd of 1981. If you've ever heard the song, pretty much everyone knows it's a love song. Teddy's actually talking about a woman, in the song and her being his latest, greatest inspiration. But for me and where I am in my life now, I can actually see that a lot of the words can look and feel like a double entendre, meaning that, yes, he on the surface, he's talking about a woman, but he also could be talking about God. One part of the song that always resonated with me is things never looked clear. Peace within never felt nearer. My burden's gone. It's turned into a song. So when you are walking the path that God put in front of you, you actually are seeing clear. You are no longer clouded, with doubt. That burden is gone because you understand you have peace within because you're actually doing what God, put you on this planet to do. So in this particular case, in Teddy's case, he turned that inspiration into a song. But for me, I'm inspired to make these videos. And regardless of how many people, watch them, if it resonates with you, you'll watch it. That is how God is inspiring me to inspire someone else to be, greater. Nothing has looked more clear to me in life than what I'm doing now. As I've said on other videos, the peace that I have within me, I won't allow anyone to take away from me because I understand why I have it is because I worked at it. God allowed me to go through the fire, a lot of trials and tribulations in my life in order for me to even get to this point to where I can see that I'm seeing clear. Psalms chapter 30, verses 11 through 12. You have turned for me my mourning into dancing. You have put off my sackcloth and clothed me with gladness, to the end that my glory may sing praise to you and not be silent. So in this particular case, in this psalm, they're singing that, God has turned their mourning, their grief, into dancing. Now they're happy. They've taken off their horrible clothes and put them in clothes that they feel good in. So they're going to sing his praises, forever. They'll actually not be silent about what God has actually done for them. And that's what I'm doing. And I pray, if you watch this video, you'll actually get that in your spirit to actually do too. Because one thing God does not want us to do, God does not want us to be silent with our prayer and our praise of him. I used to work with, a lot of older people when I was younger. And I would always remember, anytime I would ask them, how they were doing. And they would always come back with something spiritual, and it always amazed me that they would do that. And they would always do it with a smile, on their face, and one guy would always say, I was like, how you doing, man? He was like, oh man, I'm blessed by the best. And, every time I would see him, he would say that I'm blessed by the best. And as an older man now, I understand that, I am blessed by the best. And it's taken me years to fully grasp and comprehend that I am blessed. I am blessed to be able to walk this earth. I'm blessed to live the life that I live. I am blessed that I have not strayed as far as some people have, from God, because he is, my inspiration. Things have never looked as clear for me as they have right now in this moment. The peace that I have within me has never felt as close as it has until right now. My burden is completely gone. And right now, instead of turning it into a song, I'm turning it into a video for everyone to watch. So Surah, An-Najm, which means translates to the star. This is the 53rd surah or chapter in the Quran. These are verses or ayats 1 through 7. By the star, when it goes down, your companion is neither astray nor being misled, nor does he say aught or his own desire. It is no less than inspiration sent down to him. He was taught Almighty in power, endured with wisdom, for he appeared in stately form while he was in the highest part of the horizon. All right, so a lot to break down here. By the star, when it goes down. So back in the days before there were street lights or anything like that, people looked into the sky, for travel. They would look at a particular star, or they would look at, the sun, depending on where it was, to actually navigate them to where they were going. So by the star, when it goes down, your companion is neither astray nor being misled. The companion here speaks of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. One of his attributes is Ahmad, that means companion. So in these two ayats, God is saying that Muhammad is neither astray nor being misled. So he's saying that everything that Muhammad is doing, or everything that we're doing, we're not being misled, we're not being led astray, because it's coming from God. It is no less than inspiration sent down to him. He was taught by Almighty in power. In Islam, we are taught, that, and it's in the Quran, that the Prophet Muhammad he understood that he was a prophet because he actually got that vision from the angel Jibril, which translates to Gabriel. So in these particular ayats, he was taught by Almighty in power. He was taught by the angel Jibril. Endured with wisdom, for he appeared in stately form. So in this particular case, Jibril or Gabriel presented himself in physical form to the Prophet Muhammad in order for him to give him the information that Allah wanted him to have, while he was in the highest part of the horizon, which means, further away. So one thing in Islam, when you study, Islam, that the Prophet was illiterate. So he had people around him who could read and write. So when God would give the angel Jibril, he would give him pieces of the Quran. He would give that to the prophet. The prophet would go into a trance-like state when he's actually getting this information. And then he would give that information to the people who was around him, and they would actually translate that out. They would put that in physical form. So that's how the Quran was written. It was written from God, who gave it to the angel Jibril, who gave it to the Prophet Muhammad. So in these actual ayats, it's talking about that, and is also talking about God being his inspiration, because in order for him to be able to get that, he had to be in a certain mind frame in order to be seen as someone who walks with God. And for me, regardless of what faith that you follow, regardless of if you are more religious or you're more spiritual, bottom line at the end of the day, what we all need is God in our life. I don't care how hard you think you are. I don't care what you've done in this life. You have to have a level of faith in order to be able to make it through this world. And I'm understanding that now, the older I get. I've always had faith. I've always believed, but my faith now is totally different than when it was when I was younger. Why? One reason is because I'm older. And one thing that comes with age is knowledge and wisdom. So if you are of a certain age, and if you're watching this, just know that the older you get, the more wise you'll become based off of your life experiences, your travels, those things of that nature. You'll actually be able to see everything that you've done will make sense. So God is my inspiration. As always, like, comment, share, subscribe, and positive energy activates constant elevation. Peace.